Kate Wareing, you're from Oxfam. You come and take the lectern here. You're particularly concerned with poverty in the UK. Why are you concerned about an attempt to do something about the level of benefit payments in this country?
I think the first thing to say is that that benefit budget pays to provide very low levels of financial support to the most vulnerable in our society. It pays for state pensions, it pays for out-of-work benefits for people who are too sick to work, it pays for benefits for people who are caring for people and who can't work because of the caring work that they're doing for others in our society, and it pays for support for people who are searching for work. And I think if we end up freezing those very small payments that we already make to people at their current levels for the next 5 years, we will exacerbate what are already very difficult financial circumstances for many of the most vulnerable in our society. I share the desire to get people back into employment. I think that we do need to simplify our benefit system. I think we need to make it more flexible, to make it possible for people to take the sort of work that they can't take at the moment without plunging their finances into chaos. And I think we need to address the phenomenally high marginal tax rates, up to 95%, that people face when they come off benefits. But the Centre for Social Justice report costed that as needing upfront investment of £2.7 billion. And that should then release savings down the road when people are able to re-enter the workforce and the economy picks up. But that sort of investment is needed at the beginning and wouldn't be possible if we...
You're shaking your head.
Why?
Well, I mean, again, it's all very touching. We'll get heartrending stories about a hypothetical teaching assistant, now the most vulnerable in society.
Heartrending stories of people in distress.
I agree with that, but the problem is, with the welfare state we have at the moment, is it isn't just about the most vulnerable in society. 1/3 of households in this country are reliant on state handouts for more than 50% of their income. This is not a targeted welfare system dealing with a very narrow proportion of the population who are in desperate need. If it was, it would be considerably cheaper. That is a vast amount of handouts. I do not believe 1/3 of households in this country need to be reliant on the state for half their income. It is utterly preposterous. And the history of welfareism in Britain over the years has been that the more money you throw at it, it does not help with poverty relief. It bunkerises people in sinker states. These are small payments, but they add up to enormous global payments, precisely because we have not focused it on the people who really need help. Having 2 million or more on incapacity benefit is extraordinary. That's not going to help disabled people.
You were a Treasury Minister. You know there's a lot of money that can be saved here.
Well, the best way to save money on the benefit bill is to get more people into employment, and that's the best way to grow ourselves out of the deficit problems that we have. What I'm concerned about at the moment is that by all this, enormous discussion at government level about the severity and the pain and the austerity that's going to come, normal consumers out there are thinking, well, actually, perhaps I'd better not buy that thing I was going to buy, and that in turn will make a double-dip recession a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you are entirely right to make the case for a more simplified tax and benefit system. Mark is entirely wrong to suggest cutting tax credits, which is what was implicit in what you were saying. And I think one of the interesting things that we need to do as a result of the crisis that we're in at the moment is accept that there are actually, and let me argue this one through, there are invest to save schemes that need to be considered, and they don't necessarily have to be done by borrowing more from the public to do it. One thing that Demos, the think tank where I now work, is looking at, for example, is issuing very specific bonds, working with the financial markets to say, look, if we invest this money in sorting out the HMRC computer system to have an integrated tax and benefit model, we will immediately get a saving after X number of years.
Redwood,
and this is the type of conversation we should be having.
What do you make of that sort of idea? I mean, does that come anywhere near dealing with the severity of the cuts needed?
I think it's part of the answer, but as I said, we need a promotion of enterprise package, and one of the areas where I would cut spending very hard is I would get rid of grants to companies, because I think that's a nice to have or a foolish to have, which we can't afford. So the enterprise package has to take the form of deregulation and tax incentive to create the jobs we need, and then some more of these schemes will work. But I do think we need to target much more with our welfare system. It's the only option we've got if we're going to make any real impact on that huge bill without damaging the most vulnerable, which you and I jointly want to do well by.